What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. It's another midweek bonus video for you. Today, we're going to talk about the reports last night linking Celtic with a move for Kieran Tierney, and we'll also talk about Alexandro Bernabei while we're looking at the situation at left back. But before we get into it, the thing I neglected to mention on yesterday's video about Sunday's win was, of course, the meltdown that has unfolded after the game. That is ramping up again today. What's this, Thursday? So that's 4 or 5 days after the game. Completely normal, I suppose, after Celtic have a big win like that, particularly given the trophy haul that we now stand on. I think any time Celtic have questioned the refereeing standards over the years, it's always been ridiculed with things like you're all paranoid, it must be a conspiracy, and always cheated, never defeated. It's always things of that ilk in it. So I think we'll just leave it at that and move on because I don't really want to waste any more breath on it. Let's talk about Kieran Tierney. That's what we're here for. The links last night with him saying that Celtic are in pole position to bring him back to the club, which would be a sensational return for him. I think when he left the club, we all probably felt he would return one day later on in his career. The news is that Arsenal are not going to take up the option to give him another year and trigger that year extension on his contract, which means next summer 2025 he will be a free agent, and it means as of next month he can sign a pre-contract with another team. Now the question, should Celtic sign Kieran Tierney, is undoubtedly yes, of course. We probably couldn't get a better fullback than Kieran Tierney for his level. We've seen it before. I think he's obviously got so many brilliant attributes to his game. We know that he loves the club. He was amazing when he was here the first time, coming through the youth system, getting that big move. I think undoubtedly his quality would be a huge addition to this Celtic squad, but there is two big question marks about whether a return, one, is possible, and two, is something Celtic should definitely pursue. The first one is obviously his injury record. It's been a real shame for him, actually, to see how his Arsenal career's developed in terms of how many injuries he's picked up throughout his time there and when he was on loan at Sociedad as well. So let's have a quick look at that on the screen now. You can see the stats for Kieran's injury record over the last 4 or 5 years since he made that big money move down south. He's missed 113 games over 5 seasons, which is an average of 23 games a season that he's missed. Now, that's a huge amount of games, and there's a few recurring injuries in there, as you can see. There's a few hamstrings, there's a couple of knee injuries, and then obviously that surgery there, you can see a couple of years back. And these injuries have really plagued him. It's made it difficult for him to nail down any long-term place at Arsenal, and of course he went on loan to Real Sociedad as well, and he's found himself out of favour. I know he returned to the team last night in their League Cup win over Crystal Palace 3-2 at the Emirates. It was good to see him back on the pitch, but that's all against a backdrop of Arsenal choosing not to take up this extra year on his contract and him heading towards free agency as in next summer. So I think on the one hand it's a no-brainer for Celtic, it really is, to get a fullback of that quality. As I say, it's unlikely that we could go and get a better fullback than Kieran Tierney. There's absolutely no two ways about that, but those injury concerns are there. And I think the other question mark is obviously his salary, his wages. He's on a 6-figure weekly salary at Arsenal, if you believe the reports. So he's obviously going to have to take a huge drop in that to return to Celtic. I mean, speculate on what you think Celtic's top earning is. Is it 30, 35 grand a week? Certainly no more than 40. And if Kieran Tierney's on 100 plus just now, it's going to be a huge drop for him. Now, he's obviously done well from his Arsenal move. I'm sure that if he wants to come back to the club, he could swallow that drop in wages. That's obviously something that he's just going to have to deal with if he does want to return, because there's no way Celtic are getting anywhere near in that region. But that brings us back to the question about his fitness and about the injury record. Can the situation be that Kieran Tierney comes back, but he has to almost split a season half and half with another fullback? Is that justifiable given the outlay that Celtic would have to go to for him if we keep Greg Taylor, for example, or we have an Alex Valle there as well, and they both share the load throughout the season and they play 30-35 games a season each? As I've just showed you with the stats there, Kieran's missed an average of 20 odd games in each of the last 5 seasons, so that's obviously a concern. And that would, if he's a top earner, is that going to be enough? If he comes back to the club and he's one of the top earners, will the club see that as a good deal if they can only reliably get half a season out of him. The other question for him is, at 27, will he see this as too early to come back to Celtic? I'm sure there'll be interest probably from other clubs in England, particularly given that he's going to be out of contract and he's going to be available for free. If he thinks he can still perform down there at that level, I think he'll probably have much more lucrative offers from that league and maybe from around Europe. Who knows? But I think ultimately for Kieran, it'll come down to him if he wants to come back to Celtic. I think that is what will happen. The reports suggest that we're looking at potentially a loan deal in January and then trying to sort a pre-contract agreement to bring him back permanently in the summer. Now, of course, it'd be a sensational return for him. It'd be brilliant for us. He's a top player. We all loved him when he was here. I think everybody in their right mind would have him back, given that he's such a top player. But ultimately, I think it'll come down to Kieran. Does he want to come back? Is this the right time for him? And can he agree a contract with Celtic that he sees as a good one for him at this stage of his career, given that he's 27 and he might have other options on the table? I would love to see him back. I was gutted when he left. I loved watching him playing for Celtic. I really hope it does transpire, whether it be in January or whether he does come back on a permanent basis in the summer. I think he, on one hand, if we can keep him fit, it would really, really bolster the team and the squad. But on the other, just to get the joy of watching him for Celtic again, it would be absolutely brilliant. So it's a resounding yes, but there is those concerns, as I say, around his fitness record and around the contract Celtic would need to put in front of him to get him back, and whether he could settle at a huge cut from the wages that he's currently on. But I'd absolutely love to see him return to the club sooner rather than later. Now, Alexandro Bernabei is another left back who's currently at Celtic. He's on loan to Internacional in Brazil. He has been awarded the best left back of the season in Brazil. He's had huge plaudits for his performances there. I think the Internacional fans absolutely love him. It just didn't work out for him in his time at Celtic. When you're coming from the other side of the world to a different culture, to a different lifestyle, to a different style of football, some players really struggle to adapt, and we've seen it before with players from Argentina, from Brazil at times, coming to Celtic and they find it difficult to fit in. And I think that's what's happened with Bernabei. I know that he recently became a father not long after he joined Celtic, and I think he's obviously feeling more at home being back in South America. He's obviously performing to a much higher level, and the rumour is that Celtic would like to sell him permanently. I don't know if International have the finances to make a permanent deal work. I think they would like to extend the loan deal for him if the reports are to be believed. But I think there's a real possibility that the Celtic could make some profit on Bernabei. And if they can do that, I think it makes perfect sense to sell him and to move on. I think it was clear from early on that he wasn't really fitting in at Celtic, and that might be for numerous reasons, as I've already listed. But I think it makes perfect business sense for the club if they can get a permanent deal for Bernabei and not lose any money on him, first of all. But if they can make a profit off the back of how well he's done in this loan move, then it's an absolute no-brainer for the club. And I think, again, the best move for the player as well. So we'll see how that one develops over the course of this month. That's it for today. Let us know your thoughts on Kieran Tierney. Would you like to see him return to Celtic in January? Do you think his injury record is a concern for us? And what do you think will happen with Alexandro Bernabei as well? Like the video. Please don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you for the build-up to Dundee United at the weekend. Cheers.